Hi guys, welcome to episode 2 of the Tax Evasion podcast. Got the usual guests this week. We still got Sickloot, still got Galam, still got Azure. No people skills, sadly, but we're talking about some pretty contentious topics this week, so strap yourselves in. We're definitely keen to see how you guys feel about it. If you're interested in posting a comment, definitely some questions that we can answer in our next podcast, feel free to do so. That'd be great. As always, guys, appreciate you. I'm going to let the footage roll now. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you on the next video. Peace.
Welcome in everybody to episode 2 of the Tax Evasion podcast. How's everyone doing?
Good.
Chillin'.
Good.
Awesome. So today we're going to be talking about something a little bit interesting. It's more of a hypothetical thing that is not going to happen most likely, but I just wanted to discuss the potential, like how it could be implemented. Any good ideas? I already sent you it a few days ago or like a few weeks ago, but so I just wanted to kick it off starting talking about the potential for an official Ironman game mode. Obviously they've never even like signaled that that could be a thing, but I think it'd be fun to just talk about how they could implement it and all of that stuff.
Yep. All right. Well, I suppose I'll go first, I guess.
Sounds
It's
good.
something I've spoken about for a long time, given I've done it for so long. I've spent a fair bit of time thinking about how it could be implemented and what way that they would best do that. Because the root of the real issue is that... Sorry, hang on. Sorry, I had to clear my throat. The real issue is like monetization, right? So if they're going to spend time and resources into a game mode, they have to find a way to monetize it. And the current way or the current meta for Ironman is free to play. So it kind of fails the first hurdle.
Yeah, I've thought about
if
that
you look
too.
at it in that regard. So taking away the I guess issue of being free to play, it requires a rework of the current Pearl Shop, I guess. So let's assume that Pearl Abyss is interested in entertaining the idea and they want to actively develop it. I've thought of a few ways that we can modify the Pearl Shop. It requires a fair bit of limitations, the real just heavy change on how the Pearl Shop works, and stuff like that. So like costumes cannot be melted for crons, so they're purely functional. I think the benefits of like the 8-set premium effect is definitely something that's still useful, and I don't think it's too game breaking as far as
fair.
access to pay to win as such. But things like carry weight and the tent and all those creature comforts, I think they're just things that we've learned to deal with, especially, I guess, I don't know how you guys have gone, but on my current Ironman, using the loyalty shop to get like 200 extra LT and then having the fairy, kind of okay, but the real problem I've only run into is at like the new Decia Histria, where you actually have to use storage maids. So it would require some changing of in-game mechanics as well, regarding like horse trash stacking, things like that, to make it accessible to all people playing as an Ironman, not just people that have storage maids.
Yeah.
But yeah, the biggest
short
limitation
interjection on
is
that.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, Quinny, about the
Mm-hmm.
Histria specifically, when they launched Decia Histria, they had plans to allow your horse to go in so that you could horse stack, but they saw the cash flow income from all the storage maids they sold and haven't done it in like 8 months or whatever. So I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I totally agree. I do remember they did promise that. But yeah, it just requires a way to monetize something else for their benefit, because I think the attraction is there, but the biggest hurdle is overcoming the Pearl Shop and how the Pearl Shop currently works, and the fact that it is not what Ironmen are perceived as. I don't believe that it has to be a free to play experience. I think it's been fun to be a free to play experience in such a pay to win economy in this game. The stigma of pay to win is so phenomenal in this game. And look, I'm not saying it's not pay to win by any means, but I've not felt like I care whether it's pay to win or not. Is kind of my take on it. But as far as implementation, it's really the Pearl Shop is the biggest hurdle. I think everything else can probably fall into line later. But yeah, again, it all hinges on whether they would even invest the energy and resources into it, really. So.
Yeah, I think the biggest things that I've thought about for that is, as you said, they're going to want to monetize it in some way, and I just have no clue how, because I know a lot of the people who are going to be playing it probably just won't buy anything anyway, except for maybe cosmetics, stuff like that. But so I don't know like how worth it would be. Also, I don't think they're aware of Ironman. The company is. I'm sure the GMs and like the NA and EU GMs know what Ironman is, but other than that, I don't think they really know about Ironman as a concept. So like that would be another hurdle to get over, is actually getting it to the devs who are making the actual content for the game in Korea. And like I think there need to be way more interest in it, and in NA as like a concept. And I don't know, just like getting the hurdle of getting it to Korea and like into their office and them talking about it is just another giant thing, I think, that is stopping any potential for it happening.
Yeah, definitely.
I definitely agree with that as well. I feel like even though if you look at all of our channels combined, we've amassed tens of thousands of views. Maybe even I don't even know if you want to say hundreds of thousands, but we've definitely amassed we've definitely amassed tens of thousands of views with the Ironman content. And I definitely think it is still one of those very niche playstyles that hasn't really hit such a broad spectrum for other visibility with other players. Obviously, I'm sure every single one of us has at least seen one or two comments regarding like, oh, this is really fun to watch, but I wouldn't play it myself. Like it's one of those things where it's more entertaining to watch than it is to actually play it themselves. I think if we were to get anything close to an Ironman server, I think it would just be like classic BDO. But I know that classic BDO still has the central market accessibility. But realistically, I don't think that there would ever be an Ironman server. I would wish that there would be. I think it's a really cool way to play the game. You're actually able to learn so many new things. From my personal experience, I've been able to learn a lot of life skilling and stuff like that, where I actually have to go forcibly grind my own materials and go gather them myself as opposed to just buying it. I do think it would be really cool if they were to make whenever you go to your channel selection, how there's two Arsha servers, there's season servers, stuff like that. I think if they made one of the servers where if you're on it, the central market is restricted, that would be cool. But I don't know how they would code it to where it's okay, well, what if I log onto that server and then I just swap to a different one and go back? I don't know how that you would have like a permanent character that's only able to access one specific server. I think that'd be cool, but I don't know how that would work. But I definitely think it's just still a very niche play style that hasn't reached a lot of players yet. Which I know a lot of players that are in the MMO space, like BDO, know what RuneScape is. I mean, I've recently started getting into RuneScape myself, which is really cool. But overall, I think it's still just a very niche thing. But I would still like to see it happen in some form.
Yeah, I think so.
For sure.
Even if it was just like a seasonal game mode or something, that like a true seasonal. I'm not talking like our fake seasonal that runs year round, but like a true seasonal thing where it's just like a server that you can't, where the central market doesn't work. I think something like that could be cool as well.
Definitely.
Even if it's just a temporary thing. I know that in like RuneScape, Ironman started as just like a community thing as well. I don't remember who the first person to do it. It was either like Bodhi or a friend. I can't remember. I think it was Bodhi. And like that gained traction in the community, and it took a couple years, but eventually like it became an official game mode. and like it's been built on, and like into an Ultimate Ironman, it's been built into hardcore, group Ironman, all of that stuff, and like the leagues are very much based on a lot of the stuff that the content creators are doing, um, and so it's definitely like I don't think those people who were when they first started Ironman ever would have thought that it would be an official thing in RuneScape. Now RuneScape's a little bit different because like the devs are very active with the community and they're very much a part of the community. Um, so it's definitely a little different in the case of BDO for sure. But saying never is, I don't think it's gonna happen. But I think it'd be super cool if they did. But I don't think it. I would say never, but probably most likely not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As usual, I have a completely different opinion than all three of you.
Awesome. Love to hear it.
So here's the thing, okay? Pearl Abyss is not Jagex. Jagex's
Amen.
focus in
Amen.
gaming is the more players their game has, the more successful they are and the more money they make as a company. That is not Pearl Abyss's idea. Pearl Abyss is focused on making as much money per player as they can. It's not about getting more players. It's about making more money from their players. The evidence of this is all over the cash shop. It's everywhere you look. So I don't want them to make an Iron Man game mode. I want them to remain entirely oblivious to the concept so that the people that want to try such a niche thing that they're not sure they're going to stick with, because realistically, who's crazy enough to do this? Lol. It's so incredibly accessible right now, and it's still as niche as it is. Starting an Ironman today costs $10, and that's it. Anyone can do it. But Pearl Abyss has a, I guess, anticipated income per player, which is a number that exists somewhere. I couldn't tell you what it is, but whatever it is what they would expect to make from accounts that are quote unquote Ironman. So that will be the entry cost and then some, because of course they want to make more money having developed a new game mode. So presumably that entry cost would be in the hundreds of dollars, and then some sort of monthly access subscription, whatever it is. And all that does for the player base is make it so much less accessible than it has any need to be. And also, everyone that is currently doing an Ironman will have to start over, because you will not be considered an Ironman unless you're on a game mode that costs hundreds of dollars. And I don't know about you guys, but if they launch an Ironman game mode and it costs $100, I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to support a company that would be greedy like that. And I guess I would just walk away from the game at that point. I don't know.
That's fair.
No, I would
I
not.
guess-
I wouldn't do that either.
I guess I understand where you're coming from, and I do tend to agree that if they're gonna do it, it has to be a money based thing. I just don't know. I might just be a little bit clueless. I just don't know where the entry fee concept comes from, because every other bit of content in the game is part of the game. So if they were going to introduce something as like DLC or expansion type thing, or a new game mode, even season, for example, doesn't cost anything to play it, but you still have access to it. So I know that they're greedy and they've shown every evidence of that, but I don't understand why the first thought might be that they're going to put a price tag on entry for the server, because they're doing this hardcore PvP server or whatever, which is its own game mode in a sense.
The reason that
we've
it's
yet to
that
see
way,
it implemented.
the reason that it's that way, Quinn, is because the concept of the Iron Man is free to play. We as Iron
Yeah.
Men do not use the cash shop. Nothing on the cash shop is relevant. So we have
Mhm.
eliminated their only source of monetization. So unless
Yeah.
they completely revamp it, which would take a lot of work and approval to, I guess, function for an Iron Man, they would have an entry cost to the game mode. That's the only way
Right,
that they
okay.
would like make
Either
money
that
from.
or like a sub base, but I don't see them doing that.
Presumably both, actually, because it's a buy to play game that has pay to win cash shop plus 3 monthly subscriptions. I assume that they'll do both.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Okay, I just couldn't make that distinction. I just didn't know where that concept came from. Because for me, I sit here and like anyone who's playing an Ironman's not paying them any money at the moment anyway. So if it was something that gained some traction and they found a way that they could monetize it that made sense, I'd say the Pearl Shop would be the best way. Because obviously the rework of the Pearl Shop needs to be the big thing for me.
The way that they would monetize it would just be the entry cost, though, because if they removed Croning costumes, then they would expect to only sell one. If they changed, like, you don't need a tent in this game. Everybody says the tent is crazy. I just run back to town. It's whatever. You don't really need pets, things like that. So you're just eliminating all the ways that they've developed to get money out of you over the last decade. So they'd have to either completely rework it for the concept, which is already incredibly niche, or just make it an entry cost, which is definitely the easiest route to go. And that tends to be the way that they would lean, I think.
So, not to derail the conversation too much, but do you guys think that Ironman has to be free to play? Do you think it has to be a free to play game mode to be viable?
No,
I don't think so. But the problem is that everyone that's made content on the Ironman has chosen to be free to play. So there's now a stigma in the community that Ironman equals free to play, even though that's not actually the case.
Yeah.
I do think that doing costume crons would probably not be an Ironman, but I think buying weight, doing like fairy stuff like that, I'm fine with that. I don't think that makes you not an Ironman. I think the costume cron's the only thing that I would say would disqualify you at that point.
I actually, you
Personally.
can go ahead, Asher.
They're good. I was gonna answer my personal opinion. I think that because whenever I started my Ironman series, I based a lot of the rules off of Sickloot and Quinny. Like I had watched their initial thing, I went through their rules and I'm like, okay, I want to see what they did. I want to see if I can add certain things to mine to just separate it a little bit. I think whenever it comes to if Ironman should be free to play, I don't necessarily think it has to. Me personally, I've never been a fan of buying real or like buying outfits with real money to then convert them into an in-game thing to accelerate my gear or potentially. I know that crawling doesn't guarantee the enhancement, but you know what I mean. I'm not the biggest fan of that. I still think at the end of the day, even if you spent thousands of dollars to get outfits in the pro shop to then convert them into crons, let's say someone gets like let's throw it back like 3 years ago, right? People would spend hundreds of dollars every so often, buy some outfits, get some cron stones, and then they get a pen black star, right? I feel like that pen black star, you can still obtain it without having to spend money. So I feel like the Iron Man, it feels more in that realm to me to just not buy outfits, if that makes sense. Again, I'm very new to RuneScape. I know that some of you in here have way more RuneScape experience than I do, and I currently don't know if you can you guys buy things on an Iron Man account? Like it's no central market, right? Essentially,
so you can buy bonds, which is their like membership unlocks like what is it, 8 or 10 skills. That can be traded from a main account to an Iron. That's the only like player interaction as far as that. But an Iron Man, there's a lot of different things that have been added over the years, but like shops, like NPC shops that are overstocked can't be purchased by an Iron Man because that's a way of trading items from main characters to Iron Man, shit like that.
Okay.
But as far as like buying anything from a market or any like a global storage, there's not that many. But it's gotten easier over the years. The initial implementation of Iron Man in RuneScape was incredibly limited. There were so many things that they had to iron out as they went. They didn't have access to a huge amount of stuff.
Yeah, so for actual real money on RuneScape, for old school RuneScape, you cannot spend real money on the game besides for membership. So you can either buy a bond or you can buy the monthly membership. You cannot sell the bond as an Iron Man for the in-game gold. Yep. So that's what the bonds do, is like a main account can buy them and then sell them. So you buy it for real money and then you sell it for in-game gold. And that's but you can't do that as an Iron Man. You can buy the bonds that other people sell, but that's the only trade you can do with other players is for bonds. So you can go into the Grand Exchange as an Iron Man and use your money that you make on the Iron Man to buy those bonds for membership. Okay. Other than that, there's nothing. RuneScape 3, though, is a little different. They do allow you to buy cosmetics, but that's it.
I think to summarize my answer, I think that playing the free to play on the Ironman just, in my opinion, makes it feel more rewarding by the end of it. Like at the end of my journey, I think that I would much rather enjoy that process of getting to that point without spending real money. I don't think that you have to omit it though. I think Gallum, you sent a new channel that started making Ironman content.
Mhm.
And I think one of his rules is that he's allowed to buy costumes to Kron or something, or he's allowed to buy at least one costume just to have a costume, which like technically they're spending money, but they're not using it to advance their gear or whatever. I don't think it's like a hard no. I just think to me it feels more rewarding at the end of it to not. That's just how I see it, but
I've sort of like
Yep.
tested this theory already. So way back in like December, maybe earlier than that even, I soft launched the Ultimate Ironman, and the rules were different than they are now. At the beginning, I had planned to buy tier 4 pets and a tent, and I specifically made the restriction that I'm not allowed to melt any costumes I get from any source to avoid the whole like pay to win argument. Even if I got the costume from like an event or something, I wouldn't be able to melt it. And essentially, the idea was to make the game the way it should be if BDO, if like PA didn't intentionally make the game worse to sell you the solution. Because I think the only difference in pets are that I get less loot than I should because PA is greedy. I essentially just will always make 30% less than everyone else, just purely because of PA greed. And the tent is like not that big of a deal, but it would have been nice to repair. And the feedback from that was so substantially negative that it was already immediately from day one not considered an Ironman because I would have bought pets. So I think we have
Yep.
established accidentally the free to play stigma behind Ironman. And I don't think any of us intended to do that. It was just something that we all kind of uniquely chose to do and just happened to all be free to play. But I think we've sort of like set that in stone now. And I don't think that you could buy anything from the Pearl Shop and have the community, at least from like a creator perspective, still consider it an Ironman.
I
Yeah.
agree with that. Yeah, that was a thought that ran in through my head. Like, as a creator, I don't think you would ever be able to do not free to play, but just like as a casual person playing Iron Man, I think it's fine.
yeah.
Yeah. So I guess the only way to change that is with an official mode, right? Where the rules aren't set by us; they're set by, you know, an, another body. I guess
Mm-hmm.
that's probably the only way it could really change that stigma.
Yeah,
But
but like
yeah,
that on its own also
it's a
creates
lot of effort.
a problem, right?
Yeah.
Now we're relying on an entity to tell us how to play the game instead of doing it the way that
That's
we
right.
want to.
So the big path forward is to get Iron Man into Korea, where they actually listen to the players. Then
Well,
corrupt them into our way of thinking, and that is our path in. What do we think?
Sounds good.
I'm curious if there's anyone that's not on like the NAEU servers that has an Ironman series.
I have no clue.
Yeah,
Like I'm
I've
a
seen
little
some
curious.
free to play series in like South America and stuff. But I don't know. I don't really know of any others as such.
I know nothing outside the English speaking content, so
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm sure there might be someone.
maybe.
Who knows?
so, I mean, I guess I posed the question but didn't really answer it. I guess. Yeah, I think we're all sort of the same mind. Is that it doesn't have to be free to play, and we've kind of applied that stigma to the game mode. It's pretty much just because of the opposite opinion, really. It's like, hey, BDO is pay to win. You have to spend a shitload of money to play this game and to do it successfully. And I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I've definitely realized that that is not the case. It's fear marketing. It's someone else's journey's quicker than mine kind of sell you, and like Sick Loot so perfectly puts it, is let's create a problem and sell you a solution. So it's definitely something that I would like to see change, is the player reward for time and effort be improved. The pet system kind of just needs to be deleted and have loot pick up on kill. There's no reason that you should feel that you're at a disadvantage because of, say, your internet connection making your pets slower, not having high enough tier pets to collect all the loot. It's a feels bad, man, from the get-go. There's no real player reward or gratification from that, because you're sitting there going, oh, look at Garmoth, all these people are getting 16 to 17,000 trash here and I'm getting 12. Like, what am I doing wrong? And rather than having the solution be, oh, you're just not as good. It's like, oh, maybe I need to spend some money and get some pets, and then these people get sent down the road of the Pearl Shop being the solution, which is great for the developer, but for the player satisfaction, they've spent all this money and then they're like, oh, it's still not just as good. Far out.
Yeah.
Well, I spent all this money and I'm still not where I want to be. That doesn't feel good for anyone. So
Spend more money, man.
Yeah, just spend more money. And so it's like, yeah, I feel like there needs to be a fairly large shift in the developer mentality, the community mentality, and it's just going to take some time, I think, if it was ever to happen. In its current state, I don't think it can happen. I'm not sitting here sipping copium, but I'm hopeful that something could come of it. But I think it's purely just going to be a community-based game mode, for the lack of a better term, and for the foreseeable future. And especially given that the main game is in such strife at the moment, as far as like the Western world's criticism of the game, and even Korea to an extent is voicing its concerns. So I think they've got much bigger fish to fry than us in our little pond over here.
Yeah, that's fair.
No,
Sadly.
very valid points.
I think personally, I would love to see an official Ironman game mode, so long as it's done right.
Yeah,
it has to be done right, or else they bastardize it, and it would suck. So
Yeah, that's the concern, though. It's like, when's the last time PA has like nailed something? You know what I mean?
that's fair.
So
That's fair.
it's going to be like way too much cost, and it's just going to be arbitrarily restrictive,
Mhm.
and then less.
Land of
people are
Morning
gonna
Light
be
1
able
was
to-
pretty good, guys. I think we can all agree.
Yeah. I've
mean,
done
I
the
think-
heavy chests 3 times now. You can't tell
Yeah,
me
you're
that.
Hey,
You're
I'll give
insane,
them
bro.
one thing. The nodes only cost 1 contribution point up there. It's fantastic. You can get so much storage
Yeah.
for so cheap.
That's
the only good thing.
That.
Max that out for sure.
Yeah.
Listen, I know it's not super related, but I'm very excited to see how that PvP mode that they released turns out.
Which PvP mode?
The hardcore server.
That hardcore server thing.
Oh yeah, that's what we were about to go into next. I was about to.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Oh.
you're on top of things. Yeah.
Whoa.
Get out of my head.
Foresight.
Anyway, though, yeah, exactly what you asked. What are we thinking about that? Anybody
Oh, you
gonna
might as
try
well
it?
go as it.
I guess I started it. Yeah.
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 So I'm not a PvPer. I do enjoy AOS whenever ranked season is out, just because I think it's the most well balanced game mode. I know it has its flunks. I know it has its problems. But I am not skilled enough to do open world PvP and gear match people or try to fight an uphill battle. So I
Feel
do
that.
like AOS. I feel like it's the best shot I have at feeling decent at PvP in that game. But the hardcore server, whenever they announced that, I thought that kind of piqued my interest a little bit, because I went, whoa, okay. You can't, from my understanding, you make a character and then you're basically in an open world. I think there's no names or anything. And then if you die, you get sent to jail essentially, and then you have to fight your way out of jail, like the gulag. I heard what people were memeing it and comparing it to. Obviously, I know it's not like super resemble. Oh my gosh, it doesn't resemble like a PvE version, but I'm curious as to how successful the PvP hardcore server goes. Not that they would make a PvE version or something similar, but because it's in that same realm of like a hardcore server kind of thing, it does pique my interest, and I'm very excited to see how that goes. Also seeing all the doomerism about the PvP and all that stuff. Hopefully that can bring some excitement back once that's released. So I'm excited to see that. I don't know if I'll play it, but I definitely want to watch it.
I
Well, it's free to try.
I personally will probably play it for a little bit. I'm not sure I'm gonna actually play it like for a significant amount of time. I'll probably maybe try it for a day or two. Probably end up dead and then give up. That's probably what's gonna happen within the first hour. But I'm excited for it. I think I want the devs to be doing more stuff like this, where they're putting out it's not really that high of an effort piece of content. It's just changing a little bit of the game rules. But it goes a long way because as they're developing new content, I want them to take their time on it. I want them to make sure it's good. I want them to make sure everything's good, and I don't want it to be rushed out. But people are going to be complaining about a lack of content, so I think a really good middle ground is giving them that time still, but having stuff like this, so like the hardcore servers. So for example, like I would consider this fairly close to like Dead Man mode for RuneScape, where it's a big PvP game mode, it's PvP always on, but you also have the PvE aspects of it. And something like that. Whereas if we were looking at like them wanting to do like a seasonal Ironman type of thing with the hardcore, so it's like PvE only, no marketplace, anything type of deal, that would look more like leagues or something from RuneScape, which honestly, I'm not sure if they're more of copying the World of Warcraft stuff or the. Yeah, it seems to be more of a World of Warcraft clone than anything, but I'm definitely interested in it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I like the concept of like a seasonal, or like, not, I guess seasonal's what we've already got, but something that's like a temporary game mode. I think it's a great test realm to try out new things for the game, in a sense, and that's not on global labs where a dedicated few decide they want to muck around on. It's something that hits a large amount of the player base, and I think it's a great way in similarity to RuneScape, how they use that as a thing to test in what they call leagues. I think it's a great way to give players an accelerated progression path without affecting the main game, which is the exact opposite to what they've done currently. I think to give players a new journey inside of the same game is always fun. But I think BDO's moving to an age now where, in the similarity of World of Warcraft, they have expansions, so you kind of have returning players all the time. I think BDO is kind of at that point now where it needs to have temporary game modes that come back that people enjoy, and they come back and play for 3 months, and then they go, all right, well, that was fun. I'm going to go back to whatever else I was playing before and wait for the next temporary game mode that I like. And I think that is an easy way for them to continue cash flow whilst, I guess, trying to improve the game for the general people that do play it every day. Trying out new concepts, trying out new gearing, XP rates, silver per hour, things like that. Create brand new content that's sort of temporary. It doesn't have to be in the game forever, so it doesn't have an impact on the economy, but it gives people going, this new content's coming straight from the latest league. You guys loved it so much, we're going to put it into the game, and it's going to be over here, and it's going to have these requirements, and here's the gear that you need to obtain to get it. I think that's the kind of hopefulness that this hardcore PvP server gives me, is that they're trying to do something that's a little bit out of left field, and temporary game modes is kind of what I feel like might come from it. So as far as the hardcore PvP, I absolutely suck at PvP. So if anyone's watched me fight anyone, they'll know that it's terrible, but I'll probably give it a shot too. It sounds like something that's worth trying because it's different. It's not It's not our normal BDO,
Yeah.
so we'll give it a crack.
I think it's pretty interesting. I am concerned greatly about implementation, though. So the idea is that there is still a gear grind. I believe it's around 60 gear score you'll have to grind for, somewhere in there, 60 or 70 or something like that. You have to grind
Yeah.
for. You start at like 230, you grind up to 260, whatever it is. My concern though is that if you die and go to jail, that's a IRL time lockout that you're in jail, and you reduce your IRL sentence by killing other players in the jail. Is the
Yep.
way that was talked through initially. I don't know how long that sentence is going to be, but if you are someone that is not good at PvP and you want to try these servers, I just worry that you'll go in, you'll die to some cheese, you'll get a 6 hour or 8 hour or a 3 day timer, whatever they decide on, and you'll just log out of the game mode until your timer's up. Because like there are going to be players that sit in jail like it's battle arena, who that's all they do all day. The minxes of the world, you know what I mean? They just sit in
Yeah.
there and they PvP all day, and that's just what they want to do because it's essentially AOS, except they get to choose who to fight. So it's all
Open
it's all
world,
gear
yeah.
match, but they get to pick their battles, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
implementation is a big concern. I don't know why there's enhancing. I
There's
assume that they're
enhancing.
going to have some sort of
Yeah.
like cron stuff. Maybe that's another way to keep selling costumes or something for crons. I don't know. I don't really see the
Mm.
point in enhancing outside of like forcing people to grind spots or something. But what they could do instead is just have interesting like map events or boss spawns or something. I'm not sure. But it just seems like people are going to go grind. They're going to die to some cheese. They're going to get locked in jail and then they're going to log out. I don't know. We'll have to see how it's implemented.
That's gonna be me logging out after I die.
Well, the beauty is you can go and play on your main account or
Yeah.
your iron and come back
Mm.
if you desperately. But yeah, I do agree.
Some of the big
Yes.
things I want to see from it, like you were talking about, Cooney, is you want to see them like try out new stuff on it. So in RuneScape, they have their leagues, which is a big PvE Ironman game mode that comes around like mostly every year, but not every year. And they've tried out different mechanics on there that have made it into the main game. They've also tried other things that they were thinking of putting into the main game and then realized that they didn't want to put them in. So there's a new prayer book that they're thinking about putting in. They added it on leagues, and people didn't like it. Thought it was too overpowered, so they didn't add it to the game.
Yep.
And I think they should definitely be doing stuff like that, like testing random stuff out that they think might be good in the game. It's a safe place to test new systems that might improve the game, but also like if they fail, it's not that big of a deal because it's not affecting the main game. It's only going to affect this little hardcore season, and it probably won't have an overreaching, massive effect on the player base of that season. So I'm really hoping that they try out some stuff that is unconventional, I guess.
Yep.
For sure. But yeah.
I didn't know there was enhancing in it. I thought it was kind of like everyone just goes in on trial characters or trial equivalent.
No, there's enhancing. You start at 230 AP, 260 DP, I believe, give or take, and you enhance up to 260 AP and 290 or 300 DP, whatever it is.
So there's
Oh,
a
boy.
cap on it?
Yes.
Okay.
Interesting.
I thought it was, I was under the impression it was just trials or trial equivalent, and then everyone just kind of goes crazy.
No, they give you baseline gear. I assume you have to grind for materials to enhance it, but I don't know the details obviously, but they did mention it when they were talking about the hardcore server initially.
Yeah. Jeez. That'd be interesting to watch.
I'm hoping we don't like lose progress when we die. Suck.
I think you do.
Do you? Okay. Well, I don't know enough about the hardcore servers. I've looked into it a little bit, but I don't know the whole story. But it's gonna be an interesting time for sure. I'm kind of like if it flops, it's not that big a deal. I mean, it would suck because then we don't see any more seasonal stuff. But ultimately, it's not gonna have a major impact on the game negatively. I think it can only have a positive impact.
Yeah, it's not long term, is it?
I don't think so.
I mean, since it's PvP related, I think people will like it.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I just want to see Shadow Arena back, honestly. Did any of you ever,
Dude.
were any of you playing during that?
I
That's so
was.
happened, man.
I played it when it felt like you had to because of progression
Mm.
limitations, not because you wanted to play it, because it was like hiding some juicy stuff behind it. You're like, I got to do this.
Yeah, you got some really good rewards from doing it, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
It
And
was
then it
fun,
got
though.
botted to shit, and they were like, And then they took it out, and made it a standalone game mode, and it died.
Yep.
Perfect.
Because that was like right when Fortnite came out, right?
Yeah,
Like,
that was the peak of
everyone-
battle
Around the
royales.
Battle Royale craze, yeah.
Yeah,
For sure.
everyone was
Yeah.
basically just trying to make the next battle royale. It was cool though.
Yeah.
I definitely
Inside
liked it.
of BDO, it was good, but relative to the rest of the world, it was not very good.
Yeah.
I think BDO
Not at all.
combat into a battle royale actually works fairly well. I don't
It wasn't
think
BDO combat though.
it was like
It
kind
was-
of. It's like
It
pseudo
was 1,
BDO
2,
combat.
4, but had some skills from some of the classes.
Yeah, it was like pseudo BDO combat. I guess. But it was
Yeah, I
closer.
think I was
It
traumatized.
was interesting. I liked it personally. I thought it was a lot of fun. It brought me back to the game for a while.
To be fair, at that point, I was playing DK, and she was in a terrible spot. So my mental regarding PvP
That's
was
fair.
pretty scuffed.
Are there any other types of game modes that you've thought of, like seasonal types, that you would like to see besides the hardcore? Because it seems like they might be going down that path. Are there any ideas of things that you guys would want to see? Kat, you guys as well. If you guys have thought of anything, I'd love to hear it.
I mean, there's some pretty glaringly obvious, like easy ones that they could do that would require. I mean, as retrospectively, not that much effort would be like some typical type of like fresh start thing, you know, like a glance back to 2017, 2016 BDO kind of thing, as like but that with some of the more modern, you know, quality of life stuff, maybe.
Please don't make silver
Accelerated. Yeah, accelerated progression, but within, you know, the same kind of realm that it was. But
So, like,
I don't know.
Are you
It's
talking
definitely
like only like Calpheon and back open with the modern convenience stuff? So like silver not having weight, stuff like that. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, well, I reckon maybe even up to Medaya
Okay.
would just be kind of fun, just to like, I don't know, let everyone experience it again and see what it was like. Because I think there's a large amount of people that kind of do miss that nostalgia part of the game, like where you were excited to drop an upgrade, but they don't want to send their main account into the abyss to do that. You know, start an entirely new account to try that. So
Yeah, that's fair.
I think to have some kind of temporary game mode, maybe for 3 months, 6 months, whatever, that would give them the time to really work on good content. I think having something that is not high, you know, resource investment, but is good for player retention, I think is something along those lines.
I
I
think
would definitely like to. Oh, my bad.
go for it.
I was gonna say I would definitely really like to see some type of PvE seasonal game mode, but the only thing that I can think of where there would be problems with that is time limitation, where you have players that are able to grind 8 hours a day, regardless if they work from home or if they just don't do anything, and then you have people that are only able to grind like 1 hour a day because they have family, they have work, school, whatever it may be. But I think if they were to make some type of PvE game mode, I think that'd be really cool. But I don't know how they would do it again, because if they were to try to time restrict it to where you can't progress past a certain point per week or something to allow fairness for the players who can't grind as much as others, I feel as though I feel like that wouldn't be fair. But
I like the way that WoW Classic does it. What are you about to say something, Cyclope?
Yeah, kind of like in response to Azure there. I think the problem with a PvE game mode is that there is nothing to do in the game. Like what would be the point, right? So accelerated progression, presumably, in a temporary game mode which accelerates you from what, Fogans to Dekia Fogans? Like what's the goal? What are you doing? It works in a game like RuneScape, for example, because there's tons of bosses, there's raids that you can do, there's like wilderness PvP, there's tons of stuff to go do after you have accelerated the progression. But as far as BDO is concerned, like you're accelerating your progression to then still go in circles. And I think that's why they'd have a hard time implementing something PvE wise. It's because like what are we accelerating for? Which brings
Yeah.
us back to the last podcast, you know what I mean? We just go in circles about this, but like I just feel like there's just nothing to do. I think they should focus on that rather than focusing on temporary game modes. They need to add non-temporary, repeatable things, like a reason to play the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
One thing that
Yeah,
I
I
want.
think.
Oh.
Sorry, you go.
Okay, so one thing that I want to see personally, I'm kind of moving on. So you guys can probably talk. If you're gonna say something back to him, then you guys should go first.
I was just going to say, I think the real shift that PA made in the, I believe to be the wrong direction, was when all the Lost Ark players came across and they shifted their focus to, oh, we're going to get new players into the game. We're going to get new players. You know, we've got to grab them and suck them dry for all their money they want to throw because they're pissed off with Lost Ark. The issue for me with implementing new mid or like early game content is that it doesn't help anyone stay playing the game. Whereas when you develop content for veteran players and end game players, you give the new players something to look forward to, something to watch on Twitch to go, oh wow, dude, that spot. How much money is he making? Holy shit, $2.5 billion an hour. Far out. I want to get there. What gear do I need to do that? You know, and you give them a sense of passion, a sense of drive. So I think temporary game modes help attract new players, and then you back that up with end game content, give them something to do when they want to play the game, and I feel like that's a beautiful recipe for success.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. I think that's a big part of. I mean, they did it at a really good time too, but for like RuneScape, they popped off in like 2019, 2020 when they started their league, and then COVID happened shortly after. So lockdown, and it just kind of was a storm of all of that, and like tons of interesting content in the game already. Like, just brought so many new people. But as you said, there's not really that much to look forward to in this game. I would love to see them put in like cosmetics, stuff that you can get from different spots so that it incentivizes people to go everywhere in the world. Like, go put some random pet or random like spell effect or whatever at Sawsons or whatever. You'll have tons of people grinding there. People will do anything for cosmetics. So
Definitely.
I think they should be adding stuff like that personally.
I would personally really like if they I don't know how you guys are gonna think about this. I think if they added like for example with Fallen God armor, right? We have different tiers of gear. You have like your green gear, your Gruntle, and then you eventually move over into your yellow boss tier gear, and then you go from your yellow boss tier gear to your Fallen God, right? How we see with the new Lane in the Morning Light Part 2, obviously we have, I think it's 3 different methods as to how we can obtain our Sovereign weapon. One of them you can get that flame or whatever it's called. I think it would be really cool if they added a lot more PvE bosses, and obviously I know a lot of people want more group content, a lot of people want more dungeons, more raids, or they want raids to be added or add more dungeons that, you know, after the first month, it's not just, okay, well, let's do this again for the weekly rewards. Like, you want to have fun doing it. You know, we want there to be more meaning behind it. I think that if there was, I don't know how this would work, but I think it'd be really cool where it's, okay, if you want to progress from your yellow tier boss gear all the way to your red tier Fallen God, I think it'd be cool if there was like some type of achievement that you would have to unlock just to get to that point. because currently, like how a couple of you have mentioned, like the accelerated progression in this game is so accelerated to the point where the new players that come into the game, when they see the end game content that your big streamers are showcasing, it's like, okay, well, nowadays, again, like we talked about in the last podcast, where you jump out of seasonal, you already have a pen and a Ted Blackstar. You're basically already grinding for debos and stuff. Like you're already almost at the same treadmill that everyone else is at. You're just trying to catch up with falling out gear and stuff like that. But like, let's say they added certain bosses in the game where it's okay, you have to kill this boss X amount of times to get like a certain drop to then make your flame. Instead of you just being able to go do an hour of Turos and get RNG lucky and then get a flame to drop or buy one. I think if there was like little barriers to overcome to unlock that next part, I think that would fuel more motivation to the player, or at least for me, I think it would be really cool if they did something like that. Because like, yes, grinding up Kafirs, some may find it fun or whatever, but it's a very meticulous concept, and I think it feels more rewarding to reach a barrier by getting a big gain. For example, like let's say you're trying to end off your series, right? If you want to like get a pen accessory to get like a big bang at the end of it, as opposed to just like, oh, I guess I'll just push this calf for level 1 more or whatever. I think it'd be really cool if they added something like that where there was more of a it's kind of like similar to Maple Story where if you want to go from like the next gear to the next to like the thing after it, you would kill bosses and like you get these drops from them, and then you would take those, and then over weeks you would eventually turn those into your next piece of boss gear. I think there just needs to be more PvE content aimed towards like bosses and group grind spots, but that's just how I feel.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like I just talked in a
Yeah.
circle there, which is not good. But
No, I mean it's definitely been explained very well, and anyone that's seen Fake Uni's video on it is the thing that is disappointing currently is that at the beginning of the game you've got this huge vast open world of discovery that stands before you, and you do a few things and you realize that some things aren't as good as other things, and so you stop doing those other, medial tasks, and you kind of just get funneled down by the time you get to the end game into you're grinding for debos, you're grinding for silver, and once you've got those debos, congratulations, you've finished the game. Also, everyone else who's been playing for 6 months less than you, 12 months less than you, now has the same gear. So well done on that. There's nothing to do. You just funneled down this one path of get gear, grind for more gear, grind for more silver, and life skilling's not really viable with that goal in mind. There are people that will pivot towards life skilling somewhere within the mid game, and they'll go, oh, okay, yeah, this is a nice change from grinding in circles. But eventually, what are you doing life skilling for? To get silver, to get more gear again. So like, it's just a linear path that has you got no agency really with your build and what you do in the game.
The crazy thing about life skilling is that life skilling is also circles.
Yeah.
They couldn't figure out how to get away from circles, man. So not only do you grind in circles, but if you want a life skill to switch it up, you then kill a circle of wolves and you gather them in circles, or you pick a circle of trees and you gather those trees in circles, or you get on a boat and you go back and forth in circles to barter. Like I don't know, man. We need more shape.
Banded utensil, spin that spoon in circles. Yep, same shit.
Yeah, circles. Luckily, my brain doesn't realize that they're the same thing.
You grind Dekia, you stand in one spot in a circle.
Dekia is just the cooking utensil of grinding.
That's what confuses me about Dekia, is it takes so long for them to get these spots, but essentially they're just stand still at old zones. I don't see a reason why they can't pump out 15 and 20 of them, just bang,
Yeah.
Give us the ability to choose where we want to grind, because we're all kind of sick of this tower grinding trope. I don't know about you guys, but when it comes to Star's End, I'm picking the old rotation just because I like to move around when I grind.
But is it that we're tired of going in circles, or are we just tired in the direction the game is going? Because I mean,
Yeah.
from me personally, whenever I first started playing Black Desert, I mean, yes, I know the game has evolved a lot since like 2018, 2019, 2020, like pre-COVID, whatever. But I feel like back then, obviously, people wanted to grind in circles to get better gear, and then they would use that gear to go PvP, right? But I feel like everyone's really
Mhm.
upset right now because they've kind of killed PvP, which is why people don't want to go grind in circles. But do you guys think that if PvP had stayed the same, like pre-Lost Ark ship, where they changed the open world GVG and stuff, do you guys think people would complain as much about grinding in circles, or do you think people would still be okay with it because there's still an incentive to gear up?
Mhm.
That's a good question. I think that it definitely, the people that wanted to play the game that enjoyed PvP and PvE are probably burning out now because they used to substitute grinding and PvP between, you know, what they were feeling at the time. So now that they've really got no other option other than AOS, which, I mean, if you're an AOS enjoyer, congratulations to you. I'm glad that you have fun playing it, but it doesn't, there's no long-term meaningful, you know, benefit to doing it other than being good at PvP. There's no progression as such other than maybe if you're enjoying ranked and you climb the ranks, and that's an important part of PvP is having some kind of ranked system where people can go, I'm pushing for rank 1, I'm pushing for top 100, I'm pushing for whatever. But I think those people are now just grinding in circles because they wanted to play the game and they're burning out. And the rest of us, we've been grinding in circles the whole time, so we're kind of like, oh yeah, no, look, I understand. But we've been so numb grinding in circles that we haven't really reflected on it. And we sit back and listen to these people talk and go, wow, you know what? You're right, man. There's not much going on, you know?
Yeah.
At least that's how I feel. Like it's hard because as an Ironman, you're kind of like, well, the content's different for me, you know. Your silver per hour is my items per hour, and you know, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I can feel for the players that are playing the game conventionally, and I empathize with them in their beliefs and feelings. But don't get me wrong, I still enjoy playing this game, but I definitely, it's easy to be swayed by others as well.
Mhm.
The origin point of BDO as a job comes from back in the day when PvP was still alive. No one
Yeah.
liked grinding, and that has never been the case. Nobody has ever liked circles, but people did
Mhm.
circles because circles meant you would do better in PvP. This game has always been a job, and it's always been something that people don't enjoy the PvE aspect of, because who could enjoy the same circles for hundreds of hours? The point was that the PvP was unmatched in the genre. There is no other combat system like this. Large scale PvP had its problems, but it was amazing. There was drama everywhere. People got so heated over anything, basically. And
Yeah.
the PvP scene was like the reason that you played the game. The PvP scene is like the Friday pizza party after working all week in your grind spot. That was the point. And I think we've eliminated the pizza party, but we're still here working. And I don't
Yeah.
know what we're working for.
Yeah.
I definitely think there
Yeah.
are a lot of people who enjoy grinding in circles. It's like maybe not like actively enjoy, but I would say for me, I enjoy the time I spend grinding in circles for the most part. Um,
Yeah.
it's the getting those drops and like, you know, seeing things pop up on my screen that just like kind of feeds it for me and makes it fun. So for me personally, like PvP has never been a thing that I've liked in this game, and I even enjoyed the game back when BDO was brand new and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Me
I think,
personally, my bad.
no,
Uh
you go, you go.
like I've definitely tried other MMOs like World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy I definitely didn't play as much as World of Warcraft, but I started playing WoW I think back in Legion when Legion was released because there was that movie that they released and I got my friends and I really hyped to play the game. I didn't stick to it too long. I like played out the expansion of Legion and then I stopped and then I would come back like how Quinny was saying every expansion comes out, people come back and then they resort back to whatever game they usually play. Um, I I'm not against like dungeon spamming or raid spamming to increase your gear. I am one of those players that leans more towards I do kind of just like the grinding in circles for an hour to like get my gear as opposed to doing dungeons and raids. But I do wish that there was a good game that did both. And if there is one, please let me know. But it's like in WoW, there isn't you don't go kill mobs in circles for hours and hours. I'm sure that you could do that to like farm certain materials or something, but it's not the same type of game as BDO is. Whereas people that come from that game, they come to BDO and they go, "Oh, well, why is there no dungeons? Like I see that there are some, but people don't say that they're good." Blah blah blah. I definitely don't think that everyone hates grinding in circles, but I do definitely think a lot of the PvP enjoyers do hate it. A lot of the things that I've been seeing so far on forums, Reddit, other people's YouTube videos in their comment section is that a lot of people that are doomering about BDO dying and stuff like that, a lot of people are like, there's still PvEers that play this game. I mean, it seems like none of us really engage a lot in PvP. We do like the game for its PvE. And there's a ton of other players that are in the same boat, even if they aren't doing the Ironman mode. I do think that a lot of PvPers don't necessarily like the PvP or the PvE because I've seen other conversations from them where they go, "Oh, well, if Red Battlefield could net me as much silver an hour as me grinding at like Dekia Thornwood, then they would way much rather go do that instead." But there's currently no PvP game mode that nets you enough silver per hour to warrant you doing it unless you just enjoy PvP. And I don't know the comparison of the rewards from this Guild League season that they're going to be bringing out here in the next like 4 days or whatever. But so far, I've seen a lot of positive feedback in terms of the rewards. So it seems like a lot of people are going to be playing it no matter what because it's PvP content. But apparently the rewards aren't that bad compared to before, which is exciting to see because I know a lot of players are going to be playing it. But I do think that there would be, if there was a different method for those players that don't enjoy grinding in circles, like let's say RBF netted you 500 to a billion silver per hour, even if you're making less than what you would be grinding Thornwood Dekia, I think players would still prefer to do that if they are the PvE or the PvP type.
Yeah. Well, that sort of statement plays back into what Sickloot was saying about back in the day. You used to grind to make money to get your gear better for PvP. So RBF's an example of one of those where having better gear will generally translate into a better performance or more fun in RBF. It's obviously class specific, but I think if we could move back to that, that's a huge part of the population that would keep the game running. Yeah.
Mm.
It doesn't even have to
PvP
be.
community is part of it, is a huge part of the player base. They can't be ignored.
We don't even have to like consider PvP here. Like that's not the only factor. It's not PvPers versus PvEers. There are people that enjoy PvE in this game. The problem is that even as a PvE enjoyer, I would call myself a PvE enjoyer, there is only one PvE game mode in this game, and that is grinding in circles. Why can't
Yeah.
there be more PvE game modes than grinding in circles? There's 30 different versions of the circles. That's all there is. We've reskinned the same circles over and over again. We don't need to grind in circles to get gear for PvP. We could, I don't know, do a boss over and over again like they do in RuneScape. There's like bossing and stuff. We could have dungeons, we could have raids, we could have different versions of PvE that gets us gear for PvP. And then maybe, I don't know, wild concept, we could have different versions of PvP that
He's
people
cooking.
do for fun as well. Both things can exist. I constantly see in my chat that PvP should be removed from the game because I don't like the PvP and on and on. And every single time I have to have the argument that both things can and should exist in this game because there is a place for both players. It is not implemented well right now. I completely agree. But it could be. This could be the greatest game on the market, but it falls short hysterically badly. And it's
Yeah,
just sad to see.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I definitely think that if there was instead of for PvEers just grinding in circles over and over again, like if we could spam dungeons or something to get silver. I know you can technically spam the dungeons, but you can't get as many reward. Like it's what is it, once a week or something like that?
But you can go in there and grind for golden tears of the desert if you're that masochistic. But yeah, there's not really repeat rewards there.
Yeah, I think it would be really cool if there was just other PvE routes, like Sickloot's saying, to net yourself server. But same thing with PvP. I wish that there was other PvP game modes or rotational season game modes or whatever it may be that can allow those PvPers to earn more silver.
Yeah. I was having a chat with my chat the other day about dungeons, and my issues with the dungeons currently is that there's kind of like no incentive to teach someone the dungeon, right? So the only reason you do a dungeon is because you've got a solid 5-man, a static group, and they all know what they're doing. You don't have to tell anyone what they're doing, and then that's it, Whereas I would like to see repeat rewards so that there wasn't an incentive for someone to be trained. Like, hey guys, doing a stream today, like even for content creators, right? Doing a stream today, teaching people the dungeons. So someone like J-Kun or people like that have done the dungeons a million times get rewarded for their efforts. It might not be the greatest silver in game, but if you're earning that 500 mil an hour, you'd take a friend through a dungeon that's never done it before, and you might spend a bit more time learning with them. But currently, there's no incentive to do it other than just being a good person, and it's like, okay, we might be good people, but I mean, I still need silver, boss.
The thing about that is J-Kun literally does do that. He takes new people through the dungeons and he gets literally nothing for it.
Yeah.
Because it's a weekly
because he's
lockout.
a good person.
He is 100% completely wasting his time. A, because he enjoys dungeons, and B, because he's a good person. Why can't he be rewarded for doing the dungeon over and over again? Why does there have to be a weekly lockout on every piece of content? That also diminishes fun. That diminishes more PvP content. I just think it's a big L overall.
Yeah, agreed.
I can vouch for that because J-Kun was one of the people that got me into doing the dungeons because I had no idea what I was doing, and he's like, "I'll just do it even though I don't get rewards." And I go, okay, sure, if you want."
He's good people.
He definitely is. Yeah, I think if they were to add more weekly incentive or just daily incentive or every time you do it incentive,
I think there should be
repeating it.
I think there should be a baseline of loot that you get from it with the weekly quests tacked on to like something similar to like like you have like daily quests that grind spots. Like you're still gonna grind it without the quest, but it's a nice little bonus.
Yeah.
I think that's how it should be, personally. But
yep, for sure. I mean, there's the what are they 130 stacks for the knowledge in there, but even then, that's it's just not not meaningful rewards. Like, and they say it a lot in global labs, meaningful rewards or stuff like this. You're like, just put it in everything. Give us rewards for what we want to do. Don't make it feel like we have to do everything on a schedule. If we want to go and spend the next week doing this content, let me feel like I want to do it. Let me burn out on it and then not come back for a month or two, and then we'll go do something else. Let me have agency over my gameplay. Whereas doing it out of a feeling of necessity, like I do it every Wednesday. I'm like, I got to do my weeklies, guys. Let's go catch a horse. Let's go tan some feather wolves. Like it's just, I don't know. It feels bad. It feels bad that you can't just go hard at something and then not be done with it.
Yeah,
that's PA lining up your work schedule for the next few months.
100%.
I mean, there's definitely a lot of players that are into this type of game, though. Like, I don't. There's even though that there's a lot of people being vocal about the current state of the game. I think the people that are mostly being quiet are the ones that just don't care about it because they're content with how the game is right now because that's just what they enjoy for fun.
Yeah.
Well, nothing about how the game exists needs to change. We're still going to have our circles. They've created hundreds of circles. But let's make things for more people so that we have, I don't know, more players in the game so that we can ensure that the game that we all love sticks around rather than dies because it's not making enough money to pay for the servers anymore.
Yeah.
I'm definitely really hoping that 100 floor tower is something radically different than grinding in circles. I don't know how it's gonna happen, but I'm hoping.
It'll probably get scrapped like the Sakurai thing that they fully developed and then decided was too hard.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully not.
That's the thing is right now we're all worried, whether we'd like to admit it or not. We're all concerned to a point, like what's going to happen to the game that we love, because we do love it, we do love playing it. Because we're so passionate is why we're so vocal. I think as a community, you find it in almost any community that has a passionate player base. They're vocal, they sound like doom and gloom, but it's because they want the best for it. And when they're not heard, because we're the ones that know the game the best, we're the ones that spend hours playing it, we're the ones that are emotionally invested in the outcome of the game. Not financially as such, some of us are, but not to the extent that the business is, But we just want to play the game that we love.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here grinding Dekia Crescents while we talk just because I'm enjoying playing the game. We just want to have this. This is what we want. It's part of our lives. We include it in our daily routines, in our weekly routines. Our lives are based around what we do in this game, and we just want it to be the best it can be, which is why we're so vocal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing to remember for like most people, most content creators in this game. It's tied to what they love doing, and we just all want to see it succeed, and that's where the criticism comes from.
Yeah,
We've got a
we're
vested
all on the
interest in it,
same
don't we?
side here, man.
Yeah.
Like every single one of us, everyone that talks about the game in this way, we're all on the same side. We all want the game to be better than it is. And
Yep.
I don't think that's a
Yeah.
bad goal to have.
Not
Yeah.
at all.
All right, well, we've been going for like an hour and 15, so do we have anything else that we want to talk about before we wrap up?
Yeah, I think we can go for like another 3.
Another 3? All right, so let's do it.
We can just go for another 3.
No, I think we're gonna be anticipating the next probably 2 months worth of global labs, statements, people leaving, joining the company. I think now is a real crucial time for PA to be making all the right decisions, and everything they do will be heavily scrutinized by the player base. So they've got some important decisions to make
Hey,
as a
not that
business.
it's
So
my bad. I'm bad at
no,
this.
yeah,
I was gonna say not that it's gonna fix it, but I'm really stoked that they're adding group bosses. I think that was something that people asked for a lot when it first came out, like Land of the Morning Light Part 1. So the fact that they actually listened to that at least.
Once a week is a bit tragic, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely not going to fix anything, but it's just nice to see that we're actually getting more group content. Because again, when Land of the Morning Light came out, Part 1, I don't know if you guys remember, everyone was like, why are none of these bosses group? Why can't I do these with people?
Yeah.
So I'm happy that
we
we're at
all
least
thought they
getting
were going
that.
to be like grind zones. We're like, yeah, go to these grind zones, and the boss spawns, and we can get the drop, because we're so used to grinding in circles.
That's how they announced it, actually, is it was
Yeah.
meant to be a boss in the open world that just spawns
Yeah.
over and over again. So instead of being circles, it was literally just a boss that you fought over and over. And it took a couple
Yeah.
minutes to kill, and you got rewarded relevant to the couple of minutes that it took. That was what it was. And I was so excited for that. And when it came out and I got my hands on it and I did the quest line and I launched it and I did my 5 bosses, and it's like, okay, come back next week. I literally quit the game. I quit the game for
Jeez.
6 months and then started the Ironman and never looked back.
Jeez. A
Damn, dude,
origin
man.
story.
Yeah.
This is I've been playing this game for 8 years and have never quit, and that is what made me quit.
That's fair.
Jeez.
There you go. Well, all right.
Overall excited that we're getting group bosses again. Yeah, it kind of sucks that we're capped at a week, but you know what? It's something. Again, it's not going to fix it, but it's at least something better than what I thought they were going to give us. So
That's fair.
Give me a flame. Give me a flame first week, and I'll love the expansion.
this guy.
Alrighty. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on and talking. It was a blast.
Of course.
Oh yeah.
And
Thanks for setting it up, dude.
Yeah.
Getting us all organized.
if you guys
True.
watching this have anything that you want us to talk about, let us know and we can cover that next time. But I think that's going to be all. Thank you so much for watching.
All right, bye.
Bye, guys.
Later.
Bye bye.